Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Bima. I am at the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley. I am presenting this research on behalf of my colleague, Bona, Tegan, and Brooke as well. We are at different universities. So the title of our presentation is Middle School Pre-Service Teachers Mathematical Knowledge for Teaching Fraction Multiplication. So starting with the theoretical framework, so we use the concept of mathematical knowledge for teaching defined by Ball and colleagues. So they proposed two broad subdomains, subject matter knowledge and pedagogical content knowledge. In each subdomain, there is three like each domain there is three subdomains, and our focus is specifically in these two subdomains. One is specialized content knowledge and the other one is common content knowledge. And mathematical knowledge for teaching is a specific kind of professional knowledge uniquely required for the work of teaching. And these six subdomains, they come into play when teachers perform specific tasks of teaching. And again, our focus is in these two subdomains. So specialized content knowledge is like a specific type of professional knowledge that is uniquely required to perform different tasks of teaching. And here are some descriptors that we identified in relation to this subdomain from the literature and from our own prior work. So when pre-service teachers or in general teachers build or examine alternative representations, provide explanation and evaluate unconventional methods, so that's the evidence of their specialized content knowledge. And also when teachers address underlying algorithm of mathematical solutions, that also shows their specialized content knowledge. When teachers use specific representations or multiple representations to illustrate a certain mathematical property, that also shows their the evidence of a specialized content knowledge. In addition, when teachers synthesize several problem-solving methods, including making the connection between various problem-solving methods, that also shows the um, evidence of a specialized content knowledge. So common content knowledge, this is required for, this is not specifically required for the profession of teaching, but obviously teachers need this to when they solve mathematical problems and also define mathematical terminologies and concepts. So prior research has shown that pre-service teachers' visual models provide insights into their fraction multiplication understanding. That's our own research as well. Because we can unpack their understanding from visual models, specifically area models in case of fraction multiplication. And pre-service teachers' exposure with contextual mathematical problem-solving tasks and problems might further provide them opportunities to demonstrate or evidence the knowledge of this fraction multiplication, especially specialized content knowledge. So we asked this research question, how middle school pre-service teachers demonstrate a specialized content knowledge and common content knowledge from fraction multiplication area model tasks. So we work with 10 pre-service teachers. They were enrolled in a middle school content course in fall 2024. In that content course, we had four different modules, and one of those modules was number and operations, and we implemented this sequence of tasks in that course when especially when we were doing number and operation. So this is the task sequence that we implemented with those pre-service teachers. First, we did pre-test with them, and then we engaged pre-service teachers in think aloud assessment, in which they were required to record video of their mathematical thinking as they were solving problems. And then they were engaged in post-test, and we also did post test. And in this presentation, we are going to focus on these three types of evidence from their three types of test. First three types. And these are the tasks that we implemented in pre-test and post-test. So in the first two tasks, the pre-service teachers were asked to represent word problems as well as solve those problems using area model. So we asked them to solve this task using visual representation and also explain their thinking, right? Their thinking. And in the third problem, we asked them to create their story problem for this specific problem. And in the think aloud assignment, also we asked similar problem here, very similar to problem 1 and 2, but in this one they were asked to explain their thought process as they were solving tasks. In the post test also they were asked to solve like a task very similar to this task 3. They were asked to create a story problem. We are at the very initial phase of analysis, analyzing this task. We looked at pre-service teachers' models and solutions and representations, and we wrote analytic memos. And we came together to refine categories of like what kind of models that they represent to come up with categories. And we selected interesting cases to share today. So this is what we are going to do today. We are going to share 2 cases. Example from 2 cases. So overall, we found that pre-service teachers, we found more insights about pre-service teachers' mathematical knowledge for teaching through word problems, symbolic task, and video assignment. And collectively, these test tasks and associated reflection solutions reveal their conceptualization related to how they interpret word problems or story problems, how they represent those problems using area models, and how they use how they explicitly identify referent unit, and how they shade and partition within those units. So 2 cases here. First from Miss L, our one pre-service teachers. So we found that as she was engaged in different tasks throughout that series, she initially used additive reasoning to represent those contextual problems. But later she started using multiplicative reasoning, but then we found that she was still working on to develop her concept about figuring out referent unit, and also when to partition across the whole. So she partitioned across the whole and also shared across the whole. This is her example from her pre-test. So as you see here, so she mentioned she wrote a subtraction problem for this multiplication problem. So she thought that this was a subtraction problem. She said we should subtract 2/3 from 3/5. And also she solved this problem. So we see this as a lack of common content knowledge. I mean, because they need more opportunities. We are not saying that lack means like she can never develop, but this is like initial limitation in her common content knowledge. And also the third problem also revealed the same reasoning, additive reasoning here. She thought that she wrote a problem that asked actually to add these 2 fractions. So this is an example from her video assignment. So I'm going to play here now.
Okay, so now moving on to design firm B. Design firm B puts less emphasis on sports and proposes that 2/5 of the park will be used for different sports. Of the land set aside for sports, 2/3 will be soccer fields. How much of the park will be set aside for soccer fields? So same process, I started off with 1 hole. Out of the 1 hole, I am taking 2/5 out of that is going to be set aside for sports. And then the next picture is going to be 2/3 of the whole. So since we are only given 2/5 out of the whole area of the park to be used for sports, we are taking 2/3 out of those 2/5. And that's what's going to be illustrated on the screen. And then the process of multiplication, 2 over 5 multiplied by 2 over 3 gives you 4 over 15, and that fraction cannot be simplified. Of the park will be set out of that is going to be set aside for sport, going to be 2/3 of the whole. So since we are only given 2/5 out of the whole area of.
So in the post test, she started using multiplicative reasoning. As you see in that video assignment also, she used multiplicative reasoning. And then in that one, she actually correctly identified the referent unit. So she worked, looks like she
Next
took
picture
out
is
those
going to
referent
be
unit there,
given
but
2/5
then
out of the
and then
whole
later
area
combined that.
of the
So
park
like
to be
she
used for
used different
sports.
figures to
We are
show
taking
that, but
2/3 out of
somehow
those
like she
2/5
combined that in correct way.
and given the 2/3.
So it was kind of interesting because first like she took out that referent unit like 2/3 separate in like horizontal line, but then later we see that she combined that as like vertical line for that referent
And then the
unit. 2/3. She took the 2/3. So she started 2/3. In the post test, she started using multiplicative reasoning as she used multiplicative reasoning to write a word problem for or a story problem for this fraction multiplication task 3 by 5 of 4 by 5. Here, as you can see, she wrote, Lisa has a jar of gummy bears. The jar is 4/5 full. Her cousin Maria is three-fourths of the jar of gummy bears. How much of the gummy bears did she eat? So here again, like we on a positive side, it was a multiplicative task. Like she used multiplicative reasoning, but it was hard to find like what her reference unit was. So she says 3/5 of the jar of gummy bears. And then she says, how much of the gummy bears did she eat? So it was kind of hard to see that connection of reference units. So the other pre-service teachers, Miss Day, she used at the beginning the division tasks for the given fraction multiplication history problems. Later, she started using multiplicative reasoning or multiplication tasks with different variations of partitioning, shading, and representation of reference units. So here, in the same task that she thought, she had to divide 3/5 by 2/3, and that this is her answer. And she also used the keep change flip kind of reasoning to find her answer. Like, okay, you inverse the second fraction to find her answer in division. But interestingly, to write a story problem, she used multiplication reasoning, and she was also like correctly using the concept of referent units and making connection between those referent units. So she mentioned that Lori wanted to bake a cake for the birthday party coming up, so that so she decided to do two flavors. Lori wanted 1/2 of the cake with vanilla and 3/4 of the vanilla to be filled with strawberry filling. Um, so and then how much of the cake? So it is like a really perfect word problem. So this is interesting to see. Like she was able to write this, but the other one was she was struggling a little bit. Here is her solution from her video assignment.